Hey bosses, this week we're bringing you something extra special, some not so secret tips and tricks to use within the workplace and everyday life that we like to call Boss Confidential.
And this week we are talking about how to go about getting a raise.
This is actually really awkward, and I feel like as women, we're so nervous to talk about money. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's been ingrained in us since we were little. It's just a weird thing to bring up. I feel like men have a lot of confidence when it comes to this, and they don't care about feelings as much. Right. So we're always concerned about, what the boss is going to think when we ask for the raise. Right. So we kind of want to be proactive with you guys, and we're going to sort of talk about what's worked for us, and hopefully it'll work for you and sort of take the stress away from asking for the money that you deserve.
Yes, absolutely. I just honestly think you should walk in and just be like, bitch, but I have my money. Just kidding. Do not do that.
Megan's never asked for a raise.
No, honestly, I actually haven't, because I haven't been, like, the only time I've had to negotiate money is if the employer is being like, what is your day rate? And I'll usually aim high. And I'll be honest with you, very rarely do they lowball me. They'll give me what I asked for to the point where I'm like, shoot, I should have asked for more money. Right. But it is like just what you said. It's all about confidence. But yeah, I mean, like, you've done it, Jill?
Yeah, actually, I asked for a raise. I want to say it's like 2 years ago now, and I got what I wanted. And it was a pretty sizable raise. And basically what I did was I went on the website Glassdoor and I looked up sort of a median range of how much my position was making in Los Angeles, in New York, and I kind of had numbers to show them, like, what you're paying me is not the industry standard. So that was number one. And then number two, I made a list of all of the extra duties that I had taken on since my last raise, all of the changes in my job description, anything that I go above and beyond to do. I had no shame. I brought a piece of paper in and I read off the piece of paper, because if I wouldn't have done that, I would have forgotten, because it's very easy for me, and I'm sure other women can relate to this. Emotions sort of take over in the room. And, whether you're feeling tension from the other person or anything else, you sort of maybe lose sight of what you set out to do when you walked in there. So I'd say, like, definitely write down everything that you do and write down why you deserve this raise. Right. And also make sure you have it in email form, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, great, can you forward that to me?
Yep. Yes.
So I can forward it to the big boss.
Girl. She's on it. I mean, because I totally can relate to that, because the moment I am nervous about something and I have to go into the boss's office, my mind goes blank. And that is so good to write it down
in front of
because you can't have shaky voice. You need to say, but Jill, I have to ask you, when you went in and how do you approach it? Like, how do you start the conversation? Like, hi, do you have a moment? Like, do you kind of kiss ass for a minute and say, listen, I'm really appreciative for the job. I love my position, but here's what I'm thinking. Like, how do you kind of warm up and open it?
Well, I usually start off with an email, and I just I have a magic time that's really worked for me every time I've asked for a raise, and there's sort of some research that backs up my theory. Fridays are really good as long as it's not a holiday weekend, and after your boss has settled and answered emails, like around 10 or 11 a.m., maybe before lunch, they're in a really good mood. They're looking forward to the weekend. But I usually just drop an email and say, I'd love to meet with you if you have some time today. Please let me know. And you just have to walk into the room with confidence, stand up straight and say what you need to say and be direct, because, they want to know that you're focused and that you want this, and they need to see that drive. And I feel like so many people go in and they're like, meek about it, and they might not get what they want. So you have to, like, hold firm. But what I'm curious is, Malynda, you are a boss and you run a company. So have people asked you for raises, and how have you gone about sort of doing that?
Well, it's a little different when you're working in the music industry, because you're giving a rate to a client as opposed to the singers that work for you. So I always try to negotiate on behalf of my musicians and myself as a singer what I think I'm worth. And my prices are a little bit higher than some people, and they ask why, and I'm able to give them credits where my singers have performed, what shows they've been on, what I've done, where I've performed, and they realize that there's a value and a worth in the amount that I'm charging to give you a good performance. And also my roster is very small, so I don't have I'm not oversaturated with just a bunch of singers and musicians. Like, I only keep 10 people on my roster because I want to have the best of the best. So you know that you're going to get high quality. So yeah, with music it is a little bit different. But usually the clients, when you tell them how much you're charging and they ask why and you give them a good reason and they research the people and they research me, they're like, okay, it's worth it.
You both just brought up really good points. And like the two things that I'm seeing that's similar is you have both talked about self-worth. Wait, why can't I say that? Does that sound normal?
Yeah, I
got you.
Self-worth.
Yeah, self-worth.
Yeah, it's so important when you go into that room that you know what you're bringing to the table. And I always like to, when I'm having a meeting with someone, give them my assets and why I'm better at the position or why you need me. This is why you are going to benefit from me. You know, this is what I can give you that no one else can give you.
Right.
And it's important to say all that when you're in the room as well.
Now, the flip side of things is if you go into the room and they say, no, it's not in the budget to do something like that, where do you go from there? And I always say that there is wiggle room, always. So if they cannot compensate you monetarily, there are other things that you can do. Ask for an additional day off. Ask if you can work remotely one day a week. There's always something to do that you can sweeten the pot. Always, always. You have to sort of have in mind, if you're not going to get that magic number, what else can we say? What else can we do to sort of extend our happiness a little bit longer? Because obviously, if you're a good worker and they want to keep you at the company, they're going to say yes to one of these things, hopefully, And if they do say flat out no, then maybe it is time for you to take your talents elsewhere. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just maybe it's time. Maybe the expiration date has occurred.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I don't know. I think that no fear is the biggest message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in summary, tips for asking how to get a raise. Do your research. Look up
Glassdoor.
Glassdoor is a great resource, Jillian says. Time matters when you ask for it, right? Most people that ask for a raise do get one, so don't have fear, as Jillian said. And consider negotiating other things besides money.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, guys, make that money. Let us know how it goes. Make sure you tweet us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.